One more round of applause for our piglets and the three little pigs. Waterfall. All right, we have another story. Our third story is going to be from the Who's. The 8 and 9-year-old Who's. So as they go ahead and get in place, we are going to read none other than a Dr. Seuss classic, Horton Hears a Who. Horton Hears a Who by Dr. Seuss. On the 15th of May, in the jungle of New, in the heat of the day, in the cool of the pool, he was splashing, enjoying the jungle's great joys, when Horton, the elephant, heard a small noise. So Horton stopped splashing. He looked towards the sound. And he thought,
that's funny, there's no one around.
Then he heard it again, just a very faint yelp, as if some tiny person was calling for help. So he
help you? But who are you? Where?
He looked and he looked, he could see nothing there, but a small speck of dust blowing past through the air. Maybe some sort of a creature, a very small size, too small to be seen by an elephant's eyes. So he thought, I'll just have to save him, because after all,
a person's a person no matter how small.
So gently, and using the greatest of care, the elephant stretched his great trunk through the air, and he lifted the dust speck and carried it over, and placed it down safe on a very soft clover. Humph, 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 said the sour kangaroo, and the young kangaroo in her pouch said, hump too. They said, why, that speck is as small as the head of a pin. A person on that? Why, there's never been.
Believe me, I tell you sincerely, my ears are quite keen and I heard him quite clearly.
So Horton said, please.
Please, as a favor to me. Please don't disturb them, just let them be.
I think you're a fool, laughed the sour kangaroo. And the young kangaroo in her pouch said, through the high jungle treetops, the news quickly spread. He talks to a dust speck. He's out of his head. Just look at him walk with a speck on a flower. And Horton walked, worrying, almost an hour. Should I put this speck down? Horton thought with alarm. If I do, these small persons may come to great harm. I can't put them down, and I won't after all.
A person's a person no matter how small.
Then Horton stopped walking. The speck voice was talking. The voice was so faint, he could barely hear it. So he said,
speak up, please.
He put his ear near it. And the voice said,
my friend, we're very fine friend. You've helped us on this dust speck to no end. You've saved all our houses, ceilings, and floors. You've saved all our churches and grocery stores.
You mean you have buildings there too?
Oh yes, we most certainly do. I'm too small to be seen, but I'm the mayor of this town. That is friendly and clean. Our buildings to you are very small, but to us who aren't big, they're wonderfully tall. My town is called Foodville. I am the food, and all of us food are grateful to you.
and Horton.
You're safe now. Don't worry. I won't let you down.
But just as he spoke to the mayor of the speck, 3 big jungle monkeys climbed up Horton's neck. They ooh and they ah. Ooh, ooh, ah, ah. The Wickersham brothers came shouting, "What rot! This elephant's talking to who's who are not. There aren't any who's," they thought. And they don't have a mayor. And they said, "We're going to stop all this nonsense. So there." So they snatched Horton's clover. They carried it off to a black-bottom eagle named Vladikov. A mighty strong eagle, a very swift wing. And they said, "Will you kindly get rid of this thing?" And before the poor elephant could even speak, that eagle flew away with a flower in his beak. All the late afternoon and far into the night, the black-bottomed bird flapped his wings in fast flight, while Horton chased after, with groans, over stones that tattered his toenails and battered his bones. But far, far behind him, that eagle kept flapping, and over his shoulder called back,
Quit your yapping.
The eagle thought, "I'll fly through the night. I'm a bird, I don't mind it. And I'll hide this tomorrow where you'll never find it." So at 6:56 the next morning, he did it. It sure was a terrible place that he hid it. He let the small clover drop somewhere inside of a great patch of clovers 100 miles wide. So the bird sneered and said,
Find that. I think you'll fail.
and he left with a flip of his back-bottom tail. Horton cried out, "I'll find it! I'll find it or bust! I shall find my friends on a small speck of dust." Then on through the afternoon, hour after hour, till he found them at last on the 3 millionth flower. He cried out, "My friends, tell me, do tell. Are you safe? Are you sound? Are you whole? Are you well?" And from down on the speck came the voice of the mayor.
We surely had trouble, much more than our share. When the black-bottomed bird let go and we dropped, we landed so hard that our tops all stopped. So Horton, please, will you stick by a small folk while we're making repairs?
Of course I will stick. I'll stick with you small things first, through thin and through thick.
But then we heard a hump and a hump from the kangaroos.
Kangaroos came back.
For almost 2 days, they thought that Horton's been running wild and insisted on chatting with persons who never existed. Such carrying-ons in our impeccable jungle. They've had such enough of this bellowing bungle. And they're here to say, snapping the back big kangaroo, that your silly nonsensical game is all through. And the young kangaroo in her pouch said,
Me too.
so the Wickersham brothers came and caught Horton. Then Horton yelled,
Mr. Mayor, you've got to prove you are there.
and down on the dustbag, the scared little mayor, quick, called a big meeting in Whoville's town square. And his people cried loudly. They cried out of fear. They said,
We are here.
calling up through the howling mad hullabaloo. They said,
Hey Horton, how's this? Is our sound coming through?
finally, at last, from the speck on the clover, their voices were heard. They rang out, clear and clean. And the elephant smiled and said,
Do you see what I mean?
they prove they are persons, no matter how small, and their whole world was saved by the smallest of all. How true, thought the big kangaroo. And from now on, you know what he's going to do? From now on, they're going to protect them with you. And the young kangaroo in her pouch said,
Me too.
from the sun in the summer, from rain when it's fallish, I'm going to protect them all, no matter how small.